This guy's work is just incredible. Hello and welcome back to the Up and Coming Artist Podcast. I'm Christian. I'm a photographer.
And I'm Ben. I'm an animator.
Ben, let me ask you a question. Do you like watching shows that have characters in them?
Wait, you mean like every show?
Every show that's animated.
Whoa, maybe that's why I went into animation. What's your problem? But I like your cheesy segueing. It reminds me of the interview that we have for today.
No way.
Joel Zamudio.
Joel! I don't know you.
But you will. Have you ever wanted to make a show, Christian?
Only every day.
Joel gives some amazing advice about that from his time at Frederator, as well as exploring so many projects, including one that yours truly is on.
So without further ado, here's the interview with our good friend, who I haven't met yet, Joel Zamudio.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ben. I'm flying solo again. Christian is out. So today I'm bringing in a good friend of mine from Cal State Fullerton, an exquisite character designer, an excellent illustrator, and an all-around swell fellow. That's my description of you. You like that?
Yeah.
This is Joel Zamudio.
All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Thanks for bringing me on.
Dude, thanks for coming
huge
on,
honor.
man. Oh, Podcast 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Joel does a lot of amazing art. One thing I want to start off with, because I remember how I met Joel. You remember how we met? Okay, I'll start it off. Sorry, I'm going to talk all over your podcast.
No, go for it, dude.
We met in that life painting class.
That's right.
Remember
yeah.
that?
It was life painting.
And remember that model that we had?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, the flat earther, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, we had this model. It seemed really cool. Our professor had this thing where she would like interview the model as we're like painting them, just to get to know the model. And yeah, this guy kept talking like really interesting life, and started talking about conspiracies and all like just really weird stuff. Which I'll admit I'm kind of into like conspiracy theories and all that.
Yeah.
Then he got to like, oh, by the way, the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
And then like the whole class just stopped and we're like, wait, what? And
then
he got really into like detail about how the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
And how there's like this like invisible like
Dome
around the Earth. That's why it looks round. And I guess it was put there by the government or something. I don't know. So yeah, after that, our teacher's like, okay, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I bring that up just because, like, I remember that very first painting class we had, and I remember the professor saying, and all of us agreed, she was always like, Joel's like the homework hero. Like, every homework assignment, he's like blowing it out of the water, and that's just a testament to Joel's amazing artistic ability.
Well,
seriously. So, thinking about that, because I know a little bit about your history, but I'll pretend like I don't.
Yeah.
And so what got you started doing art and illustration? And then specifically what I want to talk about today, and we'll get to this later on, is character design, since that's kind of what you focus on. But what got you started with art in general?
Yeah, so it's kind of like that same story you hear from a lot of artists. I've been doing art since I was a kid. A lot of us start off drawing, but then some people stop and some people keep going. Those people become artists. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was a kid, I just loved drawing. I wouldn't really draw stick figures. I try to like give them some volume to it. Like, as long as I can remember, like drawing from preschool, I was trying to like put hair and like eyes, noses, and all these details instead of just like stick figures because it was more fun. I wanted to like do my best to copy things that I saw in real life and put them on paper. Like that's how I started. I started off as like a traditional like drawer, and I got into painting later. But yeah, I was like more realism, observational drawing, that sort of stuff. Still lifes, a lot of still lifes.
And how old were you when you started?
I was like, I just never stopped. I can't remember a time when I wasn't drawing.
Got it.
So like, when I got into like taking like after school classes for still lifes and stuff, this was like, I think some in elementary school, but more like I started off in middle school, taking those after school classes. Yeah, it was around that time in middle school when my mom told me about the Orange County School of the Arts.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about
in
that.
Santa Ana, and it's like that was like a dream come true. It was like this school just dedicated to artists and people that want to
Right.
become artists, and you get to start as early as middle school. Well, I applied for 8th grade, and that process was really scary.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Is it like a portfolio
yeah,
review?
yeah. There's
oh,
like
wow.
you have to send in a portfolio, but then you also have to audition.
What?
And, yeah, yeah. So that process, like, you basically sit in a room with your competition.
Oh my gosh.
Sitting next to your competition, like in a circle, and they basically give you different drawing tests. Like they put a still life on the table, and they tell you it's like, go. You have this much time.
Oh my gosh.
And go.
And they just give you like a pencil? Like,
yeah, they give you like the supplies you need. It's like
Okay.
just a pencil and eraser,
Yeah.
pretty much. It's like, okay,
Here's
it's
the
like,
number 2.
yeah,
Take under okay.
Yeah, to the best of your ability, draw this still life, and then
Wow.
they'd switch it out for the next thing.
Oh my gosh.
And like we had like 3 different drawing still lifes that we had to do for that audition.
Holy cow.
And there was,
And
like-
you're like what, 12, 13?
I was about.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's
So I was
stressful.
trying to get into like 8th grade, so yeah, I was around that age. Yeah, so like you're sitting next to your competition, and the director of visual arts is like walking around the room.
Oh my
And you're just
gosh.
like there, like, oh god, I'm pretty sure I drew like my worst drawings ever
Oh,
in
yeah.
there. I was so nervous. I was like,
Uh-huh.
there's no way I'm getting in. But then
Right.
later I found out that I got in.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So yeah, I started in 8th grade, and all the way through high school, I graduated in the 12th
Yeah, from
grade there.
OCSA, yeah.
That was a really fun experience, fun school, because you're with these people that love art as much as you do.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like a
Uh-huh.
normal high school where it's like art's just a requirement. No, you have your classes, your general education classes from like 8:30 in the morning until about 2:15,
Uh-huh.
and then from then until 5, you're taking art classes.
Dang.
So our days were from 8:30 to 5 every day.
Wow.
It was great.
What kind of classes were they? Were they like
Oh,
your...
they were really in depth. Surprisingly, yeah. Like I feel like I've taken a lot of the same courses in
over and
college.
over? Yeah.
Because like you have like your beginning classes are like introduction to drawing and advanced drawing, intro to painting, advanced painting. Then there's like color theory. You know, there's life painting.
Wow. As like a
and-
15-year-old?
Yeah,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and plein air painting. Like,
Wow.
so I've taken all of those, and then there's like graphic design and animation. When it was there, where I realized that I could have a future in art. Like, I was there just because I liked art, but then being there with all the students that, liked it, and all the professors that encouraged students to like be better artists and pursue it, and that you can make a living from it. Like,
Right.
it was there. I realized, hey, I can actually do this. I can't.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be just a hobby for me. I can actually, I can pursue it. I really have to owe like the confidence I have in myself to become an artist to that school. If I hadn't gone, maybe I would have stopped because I would have just not realized that I could do anything with it. At that time, when I was a senior in high school, I wanted to get into video games and do concept art. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, people get to make video games and just design stuff for video games.
Right.
Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So I was really into like learning those techniques, which were more like on the realistic side. Back then, I was still more like a realistic artist. So I was doing that, and I was like creating a portfolio for that. Senior year, I remember all the art classes I took were with the same teacher. It was like the digital arts teacher. He's now the director of the digital media department
Oh, that's
there.
cool. Nice.
The next year, like, he started that department. I actually, like, my senior year, got to look at some portfolios and help him out, like, sort of like
wow.
who's gonna.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like,
It's like
who's-
4 years later, you're the guy who's like helping decide who gets in. Yeah, wow.
So it's like, it sucks because like that would have been like my dream department right there.
Yeah.
And, I was like helping to like find students to like be in that department as I'm about to leave the school. Yeah. So like that teacher, he was really into like the whole video game stuff, doing like concept art, all that new digital media stuff that's out there.
Right.
And introduced me to like the drawing tablet.
And like Photoshop and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Photoshop. I took him for all that digital stuff. So that last year, senior year, I was making a portfolio for that and applying to art colleges. And at that time, too, I was really naive as to what state schools had to offer in terms of art programs.
Right.
I was like, at that school, there's this whole culture, like everyone's applying to all these big renowned art schools. It's like,
Right.
okay, I got to do that too.
Cal Arts
Yeah, it's
and
like
Ringling.
Cal Arts,
yeah.
Ringling. Art Center. That was a big one.
Oh, Art Center. Yeah.
And it was like Otis and LCAT. So senior year, I didn't apply to any state schools. I was like, okay, I'm either going to art school or just not.
Or bust.
Yeah, art school or bust. So I applied to 3 schools. I applied to Art Center, Otis, College of Art and Design, and LCAT. And I got into all of them.
Wow,
which was
that's
cool.
a testament to your skill right there.
That was cool. But looking back at my portfolio, I probably shouldn't have. Just looking back at my old work, it's like, oh god.
I don't know about that. Your work's been good for a long time, man.
But yeah, so I got into those schools and I was like, okay, now I want to check them out. Like, I got to visit them. Like, they had little like preview nights of schools.
Their
like,
work.
Okay, yeah. So I was like, I want to go see the work and also like the school itself. So the first one I think I went to was Art Center. So I went to.
Where's that located again?
It's in Pasadena.
Okay, yeah.
It's a nice area, really nice area. Those houses, super expensive. You can tell just by looking at them.
Yeah.
So I went there, and as soon as I walked in there, it was just so dull.
Oh,
Everything looked dead. The students looked dead. Like there's like
soulless bodies.
Seriously like a soulless body with a soulless building.
Oh,
I was like, okay. I don't want to go here.
Yeah.
It's like, I know if I go here, I'm not going to be happy. There's no way. So, like, yeah, for me, like, I'm more of like an introvert, but I thrive when I'm in small groups of people that are like, they get me to talk and get me to be open.
Right.
And it's like,
like at OCSA.
Yeah. So if I go there, everyone's going to be like me. And it's just like, no way. There's no way.
Wow, that's wise of you.
Yeah. And so Art Center was just a no-go for me. And then next was Otis, Otis College of Art and Design. That one's like near LAX. So I went there, and it seemed pretty interesting. But the problem with that school is that they didn't offer big enough scholarships. And I don't think I got.
They're all expensive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't think I got any scholarships from them. I did get one from Art Center and another one from LCAD. But Art Center was like barely anything, you know?
Right.
So Otis, yeah, they had pretty good work, but it was just not going to happen. And then there was OCAD. I got the biggest scholarship from them. But
for like the first year or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, their total tuition was still a lot,
right.
You know? So I went there. I really liked it. It was like in Laguna Beach, but more like in the canyon area.
Yeah, that's a cool area.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like you step outside and there's like wildlife or something.
Yeah,
like
seriously. Yeah, there's that hiking spot right there, and then like just tons of art places and Pageant of the Masters, like all that stuff over there. Yeah,
super cool. Loved it.
Yeah,
liked the whole culture there, the environment. But you know, at the end of the day, it was a lot of money. Still.
Right, and kind of a drive. I mean, all those are kind of a drive.
Yeah. So my parents were still like, I don't think we could afford it. You could take out loans, but it's a lot, and you could be paying it off for forever. Yeah. So it's like, all right. So I actually talked to the advisor there, and they said, hey, you can defer your enrollment for a year, and you can go to a community college and transfer after that first year and save some money. Okay, I could do that. So I went to OCC. I went to OCC right out of high school, and I liked it. I met some good friends there.
Some good stories. We'll
yeah,
save
some
those.
good stories.
These are long told stories.
Yeah, these are really long stories.
Yeah.
Community college was an interesting time for me, I'll tell you. But yeah, I met Victor. I don't know if you know Victor Kaya.
Yes, from here?
Yeah,
from school?
Yeah. And then Jake Lemke, I met him.
Oh, really?
OCC. Yeah.
Oh, dang. And you already knew Philip and Miguel from...
So Philip I knew from high school, from OSHA. And then Miguel, I've known him since we were kids. Like, his mom used to babysit me.
Little Joe, little Miguel. Now he's a big boy on
he's at DreamWorks now.
Shout out, yeah.
OCC. I went to OCC, met some great friends, and my teacher from high school, from senior year, he taught at OCC too.
Oh, that's dope.
So he had like 2 classes there. So I took one of his classes just to like keep in touch, you know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you still keep in touch, or?
I should.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, I went to OCC and it was there meeting Jake and Victor and them. We got to talking. It's like, because they had similar aspirations. They wanted to get into video games, going to like these art schools and stuff. But it's like, yeah, we all had the same problems. Like, they're really expensive. And eventually we all had come to the same conclusion that you don't need to go to like a fancy art school, a really expensive art school to get to where you want to be.
Right.
All you need is that drive. You just need to work hard. You know, maybe even work harder than those that are in art school, or just like keep having that drive and that dedication. With that dedication, you can get to the same place. It might be harder, but it'll be worth it. So, yeah, I decided to stay. After that first year, I called up my advisor from LCAD and said, hey, I decided not to go.
Right, wow. That's kind of scary, but kind of cool at the same time.
It was, because like, they had been calling me, they were calling me, like, hey, the year's almost over.
Right, we want your money.
Yeah, we want your money.
No, I'm just kidding.
So I had to like call, I was like, hey, I decided not to go. I just can't afford that, you know? It's still very expensive. So I stayed for another year, and
at OCC.
Yeah, at OCC, and decided to look at my options. And it was then where I really did my research with state colleges, and I found that Cal State Fullerton had just a dedicated illustration and animation program. So that was something that I really wish I had realized back in high school.
Right.
But at the same time, my SAT scores in high school weren't that great.
Yeah.
So
I feel
like community college kind of saved me in terms of that, because when you transfer to a state school from community college, you don't need to show
like a free pass.
Yeah, you don't need your SAT scores or ACT scores to show. It's just the fact that you went to community college and did well there. Yeah, I found this website called Titans of Illustration. It's this website that kind of showed a preview of student work from all the different courses at Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, nice.
I was like, whoa, they got perspective, they got, what was it, descriptive drawing, which is like the realism drawing. And
good old Lawrence.
Lawrence. But then they have like digital painting classes and special studies, which is like a class where you get to create your own project and follow through with it. And it doesn't matter what it is for that semester, and you follow through with it.
Right.
It's like, that's super cool. I wish I knew that a long time ago.
Right, yeah.
I wish I wasn't so naive back in high school.
Turn 12-year-old me doing these realistic drawings and not researching. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so, I applied to Cal State Fullerton. That was the only school I applied to at community college. That was Cal State Fullerton or bust. At OCC, I did a lot of my intro art classes. Right. It's like, I've already taken these in high school. What am I doing?
I already did perspective or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was the one thing about OSHA, is that they have these really cool in-depth courses, but you don't realize that you have to retake them all in college.
So now you're in college and you're kind of bored, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I've done this before. At Cal State Fullerton, I actually finally got to start the more in-depth stuff.
Right.
So like life painting, advanced figure drawing, and then there was the digital painting classes.
Right.
Learning Photoshop again, which was really useful. I feel like I've taken like 3 separate Illustrator courses, like Adobe Illustrator courses.
Yeah.
In college and high school, and I just never retained that information until the class I took at Cal State Fullerton. So that was really good and useful. And then, finally got to take special studies classes. Like, the reason I went to Cal State Fullerton with those special studies classes, like, I get to create my own project and basically create portfolio. So I took all those classes there, but at the same time, I'm going to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
While I was at Cal State Fullerton, things were changing in terms of like the style of concept art for video games. Things were just getting really realistic, and the concept art, the whole process of that was basically like doing this thing called photo bashing, where you gather all these photos and you basically clip them together and paint over a little bit to create concept art.
Right.
It's like, here's a character. It's a bunch of different photos that have been put together.
Collaged and painted on top of.
Exactly. It's like, I don't want to do that, you know?
Right.
And also it started getting into like 3D. So now if you want to be a 2D artist, you have to know 3D. So it was just like all this stuff that I didn't want to do. What do I do now? Like, who am I? I've spent all these years trying to learn this thing to work in video games.
Right.
And now I don't want to do that. I spent some time trying to figure out like, what is it I want to do, just doubting myself, not having a path, I guess. And then I got to like looking at all the animation students' work at Cal State Fullerton, and the really cartoony stuff. And at that time, I wasn't really like into cartoons. I had stopped watching cartoons. Yeah, after like middle school, I feel like got into video games, like, because I was pursuing that, and like I would see cartoons, and like there's certain shows that I was like, oh, can't believe that's what cartoons are like now.
Right.
Their stories are more like, hey, let's just be kids and have fun, and there's no consequences to our actions. Let's not learn anything. And I was more used to like shows like Avatar, where it was like really deep.
Someone could die.
Yeah. And like,
well, video games, right?
And I felt like cartoons weren't like that anymore. So I stopped paying attention to them. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do my research. Like, I'm gonna check out what's out there. And I found this show called Over the Garden Wall from Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
It's a 10-part series, and they blew my mind. I was like, this is a fairly recent cartoon, super deep, and the art style is really cool, and I just couldn't believe that show existed.
Right, like this is a show for kids?
Yeah. And that's what got me into cartoons.
Wow.
Into cartooning. Yeah, I was like, I watched that, and I was like, I want to make this someday. I want to make something like this. I saw like a suggested post of something similar. There was like something called Gravity Falls, and I watched that, and I freaking loved it.
Love that show, yeah.
I love that
Alex
show.
Hirsch,
It's like, okay, I want to make shows like this. So I started watching all these shows. Adventure Time was a regular show. All these really cool shows. I'm like, oh my god, I want to get into cartooning. I want to get into the animation industry. It's like, from that point, I had been doing purely like more realistic,
representational.
Representational. Tried photo bashing at that time. I was just so sick of it. Not to bash on people that do photo bashing. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, no, I get you.
It's like, that's not what I want to do. I want to draw. I want to paint. What job is out there where I can actually just draw? And I realized like cartooning for animation. So yeah, I started cartooning, as I was getting really obsessed with these new shows that were coming out, or that had come out.
Right.
And I sucked. But I just kept going though. Like I did research on like character designs from all these different shows that I loved so much. I was like, okay.
Researching the artists?
Yeah,
or
like researching the artists,
Okay.
researching like the actual like designs. What I like to do is like, if there's a style I want to go for, I just do studies of it. So like, I'll study this character. How are they designed? What is the shape language like? How do they do eyes? How do they make the nose? How do they do hair? The hard thing about cartooning that people don't realize is that you have to take something from life and you have to simplify it down to like its most basic shapes, while still making it
recognizable
of that real life thing. So that's the struggle with cartooning, is that you have to do that while also making it a unique style now, because all these styles that are out there, like there's a ton, and then if you make a new cartoon,
it's just the Steven Universe style.
Like, it looks just like this, or it reminds me of Family Guy,
Right.
So you have to like create a new style while also trying to do all that other stuff.
Right, breaking it down so it's abstract but recognizable.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a struggle for a while, but then I started getting the hang of it, I feel like, and
the breakthrough was just going over people's work. Oh, I want to draw a character like regular show style, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I like to do is like, if I'm trying to get into a new style, I'll look at like shows that are similar to the style I want to draw, and I'll study them for a while, and then I'll start doing my own style, but inspired from them. So that's kind of like how I go about cartooning.
Right, and you still do that, because like even just not too long ago, you're doing BoJack Horseman style kind of stuff.
So I was doing a lot of like more kid animation style. I was doing that for a while. I was like, okay, I want to break it up. I want to do more like adult animation style stuff. So I looked up what's a cool style I haven't done yet. Oh, BoJack Horseman. So I did that and studied how they do the eyes, how they do the nose and hair and all this stuff, and their line weight. The specific way that they make the line work in that show. I tried that because I'd never done it before.
And you've done, whether or not you realize it, a lot of different projects. I mean, you got children's book illustration.
Yeah.
We could talk about that. Pre-production and viz dev, like for, even the psychic character guy and all that stuff. You got logo designs. We'll talk more about that later. We got film studies. So Joel does live streams on Instagram. You guys should watch them. But those ones are amazing. I love those film studies ones. Like the lighting in there is fantastic. And the texture too. How are you getting that texture?
Glad you asked that. So I like to follow a lot of artists on YouTube. One of them was Will Terrell. He was like
Will Terrell.
Will Terrell is like my big inspiration for cartooning. Like I love his
He's
characters.
a big YouTube illustrator.
Yeah, you guys should check out his work. Love Love it. Love his
You met him
cartoon.
recently,
And,
right?
Yeah, I actually got to sketch with him.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome.
super cool guy. Like, I sat down with him. He's like, "Hey, dude, how's it going? Can I see your sketchbook?"
Wow,
He's like, "Can
that's
I?"
awesome.
He was like very polite. He's like, "Hey, dude, do you mind if I see your sketchbook?" I was
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
"No, not at all. Check it
Yeah,
out."
check
It's like,
it out.
"And here's mine." Like, I looked at
Oh,
his.
that's
Like,
so cool.
so good. It's such a nice guy.
So from him, you were learning like what?
I was learning cartooning, like how to get expression, personality, because like he does these like people sketching things. And
Like
that
cafe sketches or
was like cafe sketches, but like really just hilarious and like really pushed proportions. And that's sort of like why I started doing that in my earlier sketches that I would ink and stuff like that. So yeah, I learned a lot from him, among other artists. But back to the
film
film
study,
study thing. One of the artists I follow is Jason Brubaker. He worked at DreamWorks for a little bit. Now he does comics full time. In his comic Sithra, it's a web comic. He creates these like hand painted textures. So he does line work digitally, and then he does it by hand. Like he'll print it out
wow.
and then finish it by hand, and then
Cool.
he scans it back in, and then he colors it with flat colors, and then he creates this hand painted texture. So what he does is that he paints on some sheets of paper, he scans it, and then like he can change the colors and all this stuff, and he'll overlay it on top of the flat colors, and that creates like a hand painted look to his comics. So I got the idea of doing a similar thing. I think this was when I took children's book illustration. I decided to get some of my ink, and I'd create these like ink blotches on some watercolor paper. And watercolor paper has this like tooth to it. It's very like canvasy.
yeah, no, totally.
So I was like, okay, I wonder how that would look. So I made some ink blotches on a paper, and I scanned it in. And in Photoshop, I would like take off all the white, so it's just the
right,
blotch,
just the color.
and I would make brushes from it. So I made these brushes that are like ink blots. To create that like textured look, I would just press them all over my piece.
Yeah.
And I would mess with the color modes and color adjustments to see what works better and all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, my process for those film studies would be I just do rough line work, and then over that I would use like the lasso tool to get those like really shapy looks, and then I would use those textures.
Right on top of that.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about making
Wow.
more textures, but it's a really cool process. You guys should try it out.
Dude, it is super cool. Like
Yeah.
they were so good, and that texture gives it that perfect, almost like a film grit, you know. And it just felt so right.
Oh, thanks.
Well, that being said, because you were saying you were learning from that guy who worked at DreamWorks and now does comics. You've done your own comics, like Earth to Gurgle, right?
Yeah,
Like, do you want to talk about that?
True. Yeah, of course. So around the time that I had gone into cartooning, I was becoming obsessed with like Gravity Falls and all this.
Right.
I actually had a friend from high school. When we were at OCC, we just got into like coming up with ideas for things, like video games and stuff like that. I messaged him like, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we like made a show someday, like a cartoon?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, yeah, you know,
Right,
because like he's a writer,
Oh,
that's
cool.
more like his thing. I'm a designer." So like we just started brainstorming, and we came up with this idea of aliens came to Earth, and they like had terraformed it and stuff and created like hotels there. It was called like
monopolized the planet,
it was like called Vacation Planet, and like
Oh, wow.
humans would like work in these hotels. But then I was talking to a friend, and she was like, "That kind of sounds like slave labor."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god!"
You're like, what's wrong with that? Yeah.
I was like, oh my
that's
god,
funny.
you're right. So like we went back to brainstorming, and we created this. It was an epic, you know. It was like it had everything that we loved, like sci-fi, conspiracies, which is something I'm super
I know
into,
you're
like
into.
the
Yeah.
supernatural, all this stuff. And the main character was an alien that just moved to Earth for the first time, and this is like it takes place in the future. Aliens had been terraforming the Earth
Without the slave labor.
Yeah, without the slave labor. Aliens and humans are coexisting. They're
Okay,
happy.
nice.
Yeah, they're happy, and then but there's like this hidden conspiracy thing going on. You know, at the time we didn't have the resources to basically make the show or make an animation
Right.
out of it. So we decided to start it off as a comic, a webcomic.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
On Webtoons, yeah. And we spent forever with like
Yes.
with the script, boarding it, the designs, which everything that's visual on that comic was done by me.
Right,
and
yeah.
it took forever, but it was worth it. But at the same time, it was a lot of work. And
Yeah.
after we finished, it was like, I gotta take a break from this comic thing.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, this is a lot for one person to like do all this art and
Right.
and like talking to my friends and showing my friends, like, dude, you made a fairly long episode of a webcomic.
Yeah.
Not usually this long. It's like, oh, good to know.
You're like, good, because
Yeah.
the next one's gonna be a page and a half.
Yeah. It stopped at one episode.
Right.
But only because we're actually working on a pitch now.
For an actual show, which is what you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, it started off as a comic, but now we're really trying to follow through with it becoming a show. That's what we wanted to do with it from the beginning, and I feel like it deserves to be that.
So be on the lookout, right?
Yeah. Be on the
right?
lookout. If anyone from different studios are listening, if you're interested, hit me up. Hit me up.
That's awesome. Well, and that's cool too. Like, I know you were saying you were saying, oh, I wish we'd made it a pitch earlier. But at the same time, it's like you got a tool under your tool belt of making comics. You know what I mean? And like,
no, it's
that's
great.
super
Like,
beneficial.
I feel like everything that I've done to this point has been a great learning experience. We had no idea how to pitch anything, but after we made that comic, well, beforehand we actually had told ourselves like, we're gonna pitch something to the studio someday. It's like, let's just like make it a goal for ourselves, like a year from now, let's pitch something.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this, but something. And a year from then, we actually pitched something to Frederator Studios.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that. Yeah. Go for it.
So we had come up with this idea for like a short, because we had looked at Frederator Studio stuff. It's like not many of them become shows, and they more start off with shorts. So
right,
it's
and
like,
they put them online.
Yeah, they
like
put them online on YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, let's come up with an idea for a short. And it was like, it's gonna be about this kids going to like a town that's basically a ghost town. Like everyone there is a ghost. When they see this live kid, they see him as a monster, and it was just
yeah, it's like a reversal. That's
reversal.
funny. I like that.
It ended up being really crappy. It ended up being really crappy. Like, we had looked back at it, like after we were done pitching and everything. It was like, dude, this isn't that good. Like, we didn't do that well with this.
I don't know about that.
But at the same time, it was a great learning experience.
Right.
But back to like that whole process of pitching to Frederator. We had looked up like how to do that on their website. They have this sections like, pitch to us, and we had to like research, are they taking pitches right now? Let's find out. And they had this email, so we sent them an email saying, hey, we'd like to pitch this idea to you guys. Not expecting to like really hear back
right.
from them.
Because you're cold calling them
we're cold calling them, and like we're nobodies. They're not gonna get back to us, but it was worth a shot. And then like 15 minutes later,
oh wow,
15 minutes later we get a reply saying, sign these release forms first before you send us anything. I made a PDF of like the storyboards. We were pitching them like beat boards, so I sent those to her along with like the release forms and stuff. And like 5 minutes later, we get a reply saying it's like, oh great, since you have beat boards, it'd be best to like actually pitch it to us rather than us just seeing it on email. Because like when we were researching online, it's like people were just saying, we just sent them stuff, and then
they
through email, they looked at it. But then we get this reply saying it's like, would you rather like do this on Skype or in the studio? Well, shoot, I want to go see the studio.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So I was like, we'll do it in person.
That's awesome.
So we set a date, and then we drove down to Burbank. It was like a 2.5 hour drive that day because the traffic was insane. And it was really hot. It was during the summer, and my AC was broken. So we got there. We were so sweaty, and we like got out. Luckily we got there earlier.
Okay.
We found somewhere to cool off.
Right.
So
Air
we were
off
like,
your pits.
we were literally airing off our pits before we walked in there.
Oh my god.
We met the vice president of Frederator Studios, who we were pitching to, Eric Coleman, and then I think we were meeting, I think it was an executive. So we met them and pitched to them in this like small room, like on this like flat screen they had.
Oh, nice.
You're
just like PowerPoint.
We're like kind of like a PowerPoint. We're like going through it, talking about it, and like saying the dialogue and all this stuff. I tried to do this like Scottish accent for one of the characters. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop the accent.
Yeah. That's what could have made the show.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but like the entire pitch took like 5 minutes. But we spent a lot of time talking to them, and they were really nice. Like, I mean, we were nervous when we got there, but like they sort of like broke the ice, like asking us like, oh, a bit about our background and all this. Afterwards, after we pitched it to them, they basically said like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not really that great. And it was honest with us, but at the same time, it was really great information, like stuff we needed to hear. And he gave me some of the best advice. So it's like when you're thinking about a pitch, like characters for a pitch, you want to design something that like someone would want to cosplay. He said my designs were good, but they weren't really like something that got him excited. You know, like, oh, I want to dress up as this guy. So I was thinking about that. I really like kept that information, you know, and really like use it now to this day. Like I need to make sure that all my designs are something that someone would want to like dress up as. And then also like in terms of pitching, he told me like, I'm feeling like with this pitch, you created the world first, and then you created the characters to like fit that world. Yeah, he was 100% right. Yeah. He was 100% right. So he's like thinking like when you're doing a pitch, you want to create the characters first. Just the characters themselves, not the story, but the characters. Who are these characters? Like, what is their personality? What makes them different from each other? You know, like that's the big thing you want to start off with. You want to make these shows character-based. You want to make sure that if you were gonna, you know, pitch this thing, and someone's like, "Oh, this is a great show. We love these characters, but we already have enough sci-fi shows. Can you make this fantasy?" And it's like, yeah, we can make it fantasy because the characters still work. Their dynamic works. You want to make those characters like that, where you can change the world with a snap of a finger, but it'll still work because the characters and their dynamic still holds up. I've been keeping that advice like ever since.
So then, how does that affect you now in terms of the way you design characters? So
Oh, it affects everything. I mean, I feel like before Frederator, I had gotten like the cartoon look down. You know, I was like, okay, I know how to simplify things enough, how to create all these different styles and really make it look like a TV-ready cartoon style. But what I didn't get was that personality. And after that meeting at Frederator, I was like, okay, I really need to like backtrack and really design these characters in a way where people can relate to them, or people would want to be them, empathize with them, and just make their designs more unique. Make people excited about these characters. Like, oh, I can see them doing this. I can really see like this story like revolving around this character. So that's something I always consider when I'm designing characters now.
for people who maybe like they want to get into character design.
Yeah.
So you talked about like Will Terrell, like pushing proportions. You talked about representational versus cartoony, and obviously that has to deal with what kind of a project you want to make and all that kind of stuff. And you talked about with film studies, not only your brush, but also using the lasso tool and just doing it in color. So when you're designing characters, what do you start with?
My favorite part of a character is the face, like the head, hands down. And whenever I'm like in a rut, an artistic rut, I always just sketch faces because like that always gets me out of it. It's always like my favorite part. Other people have different methods. They'll start with like a silhouette of something. I feel like that works too, but for me, I feel like the face says everything about a character. It can tell you like their background, you know, who they are, their personality. So I always start with a face. Usually when I sketch faces, I'll have that body type follow through with the rest of the body. I'll sketch faces and I'll like, hey, this guy would be funny if he was like wearing a medieval outfit. This guy would be like super hilarious with like some weird astronaut suit or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always the face for me. That'll just get everything started. Yeah.
I'm sure this just depends on the project, but like, for example, the film studies, right, you're kind of looking at something representational but stylizing it. So then there's the choice to not do line work. So do you make those decisions right away, or does it come later when you're like, you know, maybe this would look better without lines or something like that?
You know, like I said before, I like to like change things up a lot. So I was noticing, I was doing a lot of line work. So I want to just try something else. There's a lot of cool Viz Dev artists that just have very shapy styles and really great lighting. It's like, okay, I want to do this like series where I'm practicing that. I'm trying to break away from the style I'm doing right now, trying something different. I want to focus on shape and lighting and color. So that was basically why I did the film studies, because I wanted to get better at all those things. And I ended up really liking it. I really liked it. And I was trying something different. You know, I love trying different things, new things. If I see an artist that's doing something that I'm excited about, it's like, oh, I want to give that a shot.
Yeah,
you know?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, and following up with that, you mentioned color in there. Like, that's something I notice in your work a lot. It's like, color's important, and it's super great. Like, I love the color choices that you're going with. Is that just, like, natural instinct? Like, you're like, purple! Yeah, because I see that in your work quite a bit.
I love purple. For some reason, I just love these warm purple colors.
But is that, like when you're going about, say, for example, that kind of visual development stuff for the guy who goes to the psychic, was that like,
Definitely.
I know exactly what colors I want, or was it like a discovery process?
So a lot of that, it was kind of like, oh, I kind of knew what I wanted, but that comes from color theory, like studying color theory. I mean, you have like the basic complementary colors, which is like colors opposite each other on the color wheel, and then there's like analogous colors, which are like colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. So like a lot of those things I already know, so I do sort of have like a vision of how I want things. Also, I like experimenting. The psychic one didn't always start off as purple, like very purpley. I tried out a couple different things. Originally it was going to be like during the day, and I didn't like it, so I started messing around with the colors. Like something I do try a lot when I'm coming up with colors is I'll mess with the color modes a lot. There's like the hue saturation tab in Photoshop, and I'll mess with that. And like if I see something I like that's a lot better than what I originally had, I'll just change the colors to that. So yeah, sometimes it's very random, or sometimes I'll already have an idea of what I want. But yeah, that also comes from like seeing photos of things. I have this obsession with neon.
Oh yeah,
which is like this. That's why like the whole sidekick thing came. Like I actually had just started off that illustration as just like a one-time thing, but then like in my pre-production class, everyone liked that one the most. It was like it's like that was the one where like I had no story for.
Yeah, it's always goes like that. They always choose that one.
It's like okay, like I like this too, but like I have no story. I basically revolved everything around that like that image. Right. But yeah, that just came from like my obsession with neon. I love the way like light works in the dark, and like it's just super cool. I love colorful things.
Your work is awesome, man, because I think for me, not going to OCSA, you know, not having that as my background, it's a black lines, white paper, you know, it's like, but color really gives us something else. Moving on to the first project we did together, which was La Piñata, right? David's film. So you want to talk a little bit about that and what you did on that project?
Yeah. Actually, I'll talk about this along with like my search for an internship.
Yes, go for it. Yeah, do that too.
Part of like my last year at Cal State Fullerton was like,
because you have to have undergraduate.
Yeah, right? So for illustration majors, you have to have an internship to graduate, and I was freaking out at that time. I was like freaking out. I was like, okay, I'm applying to all these places. I've applied to like Nickelodeon like 100 times, you know. I was applying everywhere, like small studios, big studios, everywhere, and I just couldn't find anything. At that time, I was kind of like really bummed out, stressing out. I was like, am I going to graduate?
Right.
You know? It's like, do I have to spend another semester here and like pay a whole tuition for one thing? And then like out of the blue, I think this was like over winter break. I think it was January when our friend David, I had actually just known him like a little bit beforehand.
Right,
like,
me too.
Yeah,
same.
Miguel had introduced me to him. But like he messaged me out of the blue saying, it's like, hey, I got this opportunity to direct animated short for Sony Animation and Mitu. He was like, would you be interested in working with it? And I was like, yeah, dude, of course. Like, what? So I was really, really excited for that. It was like an official project that I get to like work on, you know? And at the time, like, I didn't know that I could get that counted as an internship, so I was still figuring it out. But like, also, I'm doing this really cool thing for Sony.
On the side, Yeah,
I think this is like near the beginning of my last semester at Cal State Fullerton. I had signed up for the internship class, and basically he was saying like, all of you should basically have an internship at this point, right? And like everyone's like raising their hands like, we got it. And I'm like the one person that doesn't have it. I'm like, I am so not gonna graduate. At the time I was like freaking out. I was like just talking to David about the project too. I was like, and then it came up that I'm looking for an internship. Haven't found anything. It sucks, you know. Might not graduate. And then 5 minutes later, he messages me like, "Hey, dude, I talked to the art office and I can get this counted as an internship." I was like freaking out. I was like, dude, you literally saved me.
Yeah.
I was like, you have no idea. Like, I can graduate now.
That's so awesome.
So like that became like a huge thing for me, especially like my last semester of school.
So you're doing full-time school, where
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of art because you finally did your special studies
Yeah,
class at
yeah.
that time, right? The one you always wanted
Yeah,
to
so
take.
I was taking a lot of those classes. I was taking an advanced 3D class.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
And you were taking background painting, I think, as
yeah,
well,
background
right?
painting, special studies.
And then David comes to you, he's like, hey, how about you do all the pre-production for my film? Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot, but at the same time,
Well,
super
so I
grateful.
know what you did, but for the everyone
Yeah.
listening, what did you do on the film?
Oh yeah, designing characters. I was designing props, and then I was creating like some of the puppets. And you showed
helped
us,
me out a lot,
yeah,
yeah.
you showed us how to do that, which was
Right.
awesome. I did all that. I felt bad for not animating with you guys, but,
Oh, no, don't worry about
but
it.
you know, I don't like animating.
Yeah. Joel, literally, the first time I
yeah.
met him, he's like, oh no, I don't animate. I just draw these amazing things that would work perfectly for animation,
Yeah.
but oh no, I don't animate. And then immediately it's like, I'm going into animation. Just awesome.
It's like cut to now while I'm learning all this animation
Yes,
stuff.
yes, and we will. So we finished La Pinata. We had like what, a month to do it,
Yeah,
or something
it was
crazy
really
like that.
short amount
Yeah.
of time, but
it's like a 5-minute film.
yeah,
Every character, pretty much, every prop designed by Joel and colored, and all the line work and everything.
yeah,
And we had to animate it, and then we turned it in, and that was it.
yeah, and that was it. Like, David was really cool enough to get us a tour of Sony, which
Right,
is
that was
awesome.
fun.
And then, like after graduation, the premiere happened.
Right? Oh yeah, I forgot
the
about that.
premiere,
Yeah.
that was awesome. We
Yeah,
got-
at Sony they screened the film that we're talking about, directed by David, called La Pinata.
yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
And yeah, we got to go to the premiere. I mean, it was cool enough seeing like my characters for the first time being animated by someone. Like someone's bringing the character that I designed to life. Like that was such a cool feeling. But to see it on like a huge screen,
Right, at a real studio.
yeah, at a real
Yeah.
studio with like a whole
Audience,
full house.
yeah.
It was a full house, and the fact that people were laughing, they loved
Oh,
it.
yeah,
like,
they loved it.
Like that was such a cool feeling. I felt like so happy for the entire team. Like we made something that people thought was funny. Like that was the whole purpose of it. You know, was to make it feel like an episode of a show. You know, like
Yeah.
that was David's goal, like his vision for it.
And to follow up with that, so that same team who made that film got together and we're like, why don't we just keep making stuff? You want to talk about Toon Therapy a little bit?
Sure. We all decided that we liked working with each other because like we worked so well on La Piñata. So it was like, okay, let's keep doing stuff. And we would meet like after class and talk about these ideas we have for shows and, you know, different short films and stuff like that. And we basically created a group of like-minded people who want to like start their own thing and
Right.
create their own projects and just like, you know, do it.
And how'd that name come about? I remember we were all
Yeah.
sitting around at
Yeah.
some bar. I can't even remember now, in
Yeah.
Anaheim or no, in Fullerton. I can't remember. And it was something like someone was talking about the 5 stages of grief or something like that.
So yeah.
And then it became like group
Yeah, I
therapy.
think you came up with the name group therapy, and like,
Or-
it was fitting. It was very
Yeah,
fitting.
I think David said it actually because I was
Okay.
talking about. I was commenting on him like, yeah, it's like a group therapy
Yeah.
session for our grief, and
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, let's just call ourselves group therapy, and then
Yeah.
something happened after that.
Oh yeah, so like we were looking up on Instagram, seeing if like has that name been taken?
Right, yeah.
It was like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's like 10 group therapies.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, okay, how do we like fit in the cartoon aspect of it? That's a big thing. Like we're trying to make cartoons. Okay, let's just make it Toon Therapy.
Do you want to talk about the project we're on now? Because Joel has gone from the master like visual development to video games to cartoons to I'm never animating to now he's basically the animator, but even more than that, the director of our next project. So
Yeah.
you want to talk about that?
Sure, dude. I created this idea of like a short animated series called Anticlimactic Guy. So basically, it follows this character,
Yeah.
and he gets himself into like random situations. A lot of it's like parodying movies and shows. Basically, the whole purpose of it is to like have this whole scene like build up to the climax, and then just end in a really dumb way.
Yeah.
So like
Which I
right
love,
when you're
yeah.
about to see this climactic thing, it'll just be very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's as funny as I thought
Yeah.
it would
Oh,
be.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah.
So I'm directing this project. Like something I've always wanted to do was create my own show. That's
Right.
my ultimate goal: is to create my own show and start my own thing. I'm glad that like we were able to form this group that would basically make it happen. So Yeah, I've been coming up with the designs, writing the script, and figuring out how I'm going to animate this. You spend a lot of time figuring out a pipeline for a show. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm learning all this. Like, it does take forever, but I'm learning a lot.
Totally different than like what you started out, right? Like just drawing those still lifes as a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then like I remember when I was in school, I tried After Effects once and hated it. I was like, I'm never touching After Effects ever again. I'm never animating ever again. And then cut to now, I'm doing
all of it.
Yeah, doing all those things. I have a lot of faith in this group, and I feel like it can be something. And I feel like, you know, this is gonna be successful.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks to your hard work. I mean, like we already talked about, what you've been saying all along is you love to experiment, you love to try new things, and here you are trying these new things and being super successful. Like going on your website, you've got, like I said before, you got children's book illustration, you've got visual development for like a film, you've got your comic, you've got tons of story ideas. I know you do. We've talked about a lot of them. We talked about a couple of them today, but show ideas, more comic ideas, and now directing. It's awesome, man. It's cool to see all these skills that you've built over the years, and then you're still doing it. That's awesome, man.
It's been a crazy journey. I have changed a lot. I mean, yeah, my style's changed a lot, but also like my aspirations too. I mean, I think it was like my junior year of college where I was like, I finally figured out what it is I want to do with my life. I love designing. I love coming up with characters, and that's still my passion. I still do it. I'm not going to stop ever.
Right.
But when I made that first comic, I realized like I love coming up with ideas. Just sitting and having a discussion, brainstorming these ideas is like the most fun I've had ever. Creating worlds, you know, and unique characters, like that's what I want to do with my life. I want to create these shows. I want to create these characters, you know, like that's my true passion, is being a creator. Create these stories.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and you do that, and that's what's super cool and exciting about being not only a part of Toon Therapy with you, but just being your friend and watching you at Cal State Fullerton and all the different projects that you've done. Where can people go to check out your work in studios because they want to hire you? You know, you've got ideas. So, like, where can they check out your work?
Oh yeah, so you can check out my website, joelzamudio.com. Hopefully my name's on this like somewhere, so like people know the spelling.
Yeah, yeah, I'll put that up. Yeah,
and then also Instagram, which is Joel Z_art. So.
And Joel puts a lot of art on there, a lot of character designs, a lot of fun stuff, and live streams.
Oh yeah, I started live streaming with my friend Miguel, and then I just kept doing it because I like communicating with people and meeting new people, and I have done that because of the live streams. It's awesome. So like people that would follow me, and then like it seemed pop up, you know, and it's awkward and quiet, so I just like start a conversation like, hey, how's it going?
Well, you're sketching like, the werewolf man, whatever.
And then like half an hour later, we get into this whole conversation about who they are, what they want to do, and I want to do that too. That's awesome. It's just really awesome getting to meet other artists on these live streams, because I feel like you can follow them and maybe comment on their piece, but it doesn't really form a connection. I love meeting new people. I love meeting artists with similar aspirations. It's great.
Just thinking about how you're always pushing yourself to do new things, and you're always following your passion, you know, and like really making it happen. And would that be your advice to someone who's like, I want to get into character design, or I want to get into, you know, directing for animation, or something you want to add to that?
So these past couple years, I found like a lot of people, different people inspired me and like really helped me form that personality of like just doing it, just starting. So like there's this YouTuber, Casey Neistat, and like I remember one of his videos, he says that the only thing that's separating you from what you want to do is actually doing it. The only way you can really follow through with your dream is by starting. Right. You know, it might not happen right away, it might not happen the way you want, the certain path that you want, but if you don't start, it's never going to happen. When me and my friend created that comic, and like we told ourselves like a year later, we're going to pitch something, you know, let's make that our goal. If we hadn't started, if we had, you know, it wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have been able to go to Frederator and pitch something. And we didn't really expect to have that email, but we took a chance. You know, we just did it, not expecting anything to come from it, and we were able to go pitch something. Like, super crazy experience that never would have happened if we hadn't started. So my advice would be just like, if you have a goal that you want to achieve, just start. And if you don't really see anything happening right away, don't quit. Something will happen eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's super good advice. And you're doing it. Like, you're just making it happen yourself. Like, I'm going to make my own studio.
Like,
I'm gonna
exactly.
do my own thing.
Like, if you don't find any opportunities coming your way right now, just start your own thing. Create your own projects. Show it to the world.
Right.
You know?
That's awesome, man. Joel, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, heck yeah, man. You can always show up to a public place and I'll record you. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
Hello, and welcome to the debriefing section of the podcast. That was awesome. And I think what I gleaned the most from this interview is just how many times he mentioned the word research. Whether it was specifically that word or not, he implied several times that doing your research matters. And that's something that even I am Even me? No, I have a lot of areas to grow in, and I think one of the biggest ones is doing my research. You know, if there's a style I want to try out and experiment with, I really need to know my stuff before I even pick up the camera. Well, for me, it's a camera, but pick up my art tool.
Yeah, Joel gave a lot of good advice that carries over, like you're saying, into all areas of art, and specifically being someone who enjoys drawing myself. There's so much to glean from this podcast that I just feel like I want to go back and listen to this interview over and over again, as if I hadn't already by editing it. But there's even more still there. I mean, he's talking about his film studies and when to put in lines, when not to put in lines, or even the thick and thin of lines, which is what Joel's referring to when he says line variation in the podcast. And so because of that, I want all you guys to be able to check out Joel's work. So like we said in the podcast, you can find it at joelzamudio.carbonmade.com, or if you're on Instagram, you can look up joelz_art. And you can also check out the film that Joel is currently directing very soon to come out on the Toon Therapy Instagram as well as on YouTube. You'll be able to check out that film very soon.
I, for one, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited. Thanks for joining.